There was no holding back. Protesters throwing rocks and firecrackers at police, and officers responding with tear gas.
It's hard to breathe. My eyes are burning. The tear gas is really overwhelming.
The government says the students from a rural teachers' college were murdered by a gang. The bodies burned in a landfill.
By the time they got here, some students were already dead. The ones who were not dead already were executed.
Rafael, this has become a very volatile situation.
You get the sense, Jake, that security forces, at least here in the state of Guerrero, are being overwhelmed by protesters.
You've been all over this. You have now, Rafael, talked to the father of one of the missing students. What did he say?
He was giving me details about how he was on the phone with his son as they were being attacked by the Mexican police.
Anger in Mexico as protesters take to the streets demanding answers about dozens of abducted students.
There's an argument ensuing right now with some of the protesters saying, let's beat up the police officer.
Epifanio Alvarez's 19-year-old son Jorge is among the missing.
Mi corazón me dice que está vivo.
My heart tells me that my son is alive, Alvarez says, a conviction shared by most of the parents.
We want to bring in Rafael Romo now. Rafael, it's heartbreaking, obviously, to listen to these parents and their struggle to try to get some answers. They don't trust government officials, so how will they get answers to what happened here to their kids?
What you get from the parents, and I've had conversations with many of them, is that they do not trust the federal government because they say they have lied to us before, and we think they're lying to us again.
Since early January, several other towns have taken up arms and confronted drug traffickers in violent clashes.
This is the checkpoint at the edge of the town of La Huerta. It's just like many others in towns throughout the region, where vigilante groups control access, letting townspeople in and out, while hoping to keep the cartels from getting back in.
It's an official border crossing point with migration authorities, but it quickly becomes obvious that those without papers have other options. Look at how people cross just below El Carmen Bridge connecting Mexico and Guatemala. And just a couple of miles away, the border is wide open for migrants, merchandise, and anything you want to smuggle.
This is how Central American migrants cross the border. As you can see, we are on a makeshift boat.
Children are fleeing poverty and drug violence. San Pedro Sula, Honduras has the highest reported murder rate in the world, a harsh reality the government is trying to change by deploying security forces to hotspots.
This is the Chamelacon neighborhood here in the city of San Pedro Sula. Authorities say that many people had chosen to leave because they were fleeing violence.
We joined the Guatemalan National Police on an anti-trafficking mission.
We're flying over the Guatemalan islands. We are on our way to the province of Petén. It's an area that is known by people in the region as a migrant transit point. Not only people from Guatemala, but also El Salvador, Nicaragua, and Honduras.
Their mission is stopping drug trafficking aircraft and finding illegal landing strips.
I'm standing in front of the Mexican Congressional Building. It was raining hard earlier this morning. It stopped now, but the downpour of criticism against Donald Trump continues. A lot of Mexicans saying that they feel very, very offended by the comments he made against Mexicans in the United States.
You can't help but be offended.
A massive protest here in downtown Guatemala City, where we have thousands upon thousands of protesters who have congregated here in front of the National Palace. The case of Ruben Espinosa is making headlines because we're talking about a journalist who not only had already been threatened before, but also moved for safety reasons. In fact, he recently fled the state of Veracruz, where he lived for the last few years, because he feared for his life.
A hug kept on hold for more than 41 years. In Chile, they call them children of silence. The babies were stolen to be sold in secret. Other newborns were given away by their grandparents, who conspired with doctors, priests, and nuns to hide a daughter's socially embarrassing pregnancy.
Travis Tolliver says he tried to find his biological parents when he was in his 20s, but didn't have the resources or the connections to make it happen. It was not until last year that he determined he needed to find the truth about his past, not only for himself, but also for his 2 children. Why was it important for you to meet the person who gave you birth?
to become whole.
Travis sends me a text and he says, I don't know what to do because I don't speak Spanish and they don't speak English. And so I called a friend and I said, what are you doing Thursday? And she said, why? Because I need you to translate for a friend. And she said, okay. So that was very helpful for
them.
Still doing it?
She's still willing to do it. I don't know for how long.
For a month.
That's right.
What a great story.
Yes, thank you.
Great story.
Thank you very much.
Rafael Romo, terrific stuff.